difficult to grasp how desperate life can be for the parents of a severely mentally subnormal child. Because social services are critically inadequate, it's often the parents themselves who suffer a mental breakdown and the subsequent breakdown of their marriage. Kenneth Newton Wright's determination to do something grew slowly, in a way, out of a similar tragedy that struck his own family. The film we made in the Bedfordshire village where he lives echoes, I hope, something of that determination, because he's giving a lot of happiness to children who began life with the odds stacked heavily against them. Finding this beautiful house in this surrounding. Coming down the motorway like this, you don't really expect to find anything. It was so close. We were very lucky finding it. It fits in absolutely perfectly. It was what we wanted. Can you?
Yes, look at Susie. She's going right up the slope. Usually. Thought that was going around. Sitting up there. Hasn't he finished it? She was swinging so hard on the swing, so I thought she was going to go over the top.
What do you think would have happened to your family, Ken, if Andrew hadn't been born?
I think we would have been a normal family. I was set, well, I had to flatter myself that I was set for a good career in the services. But Andrew, of course, changed this completely.
In what way?
Well, there were a lot of stresses and strains, of course, which we found out after Andrew was born, which does disrupt a family. Within service, moving around all the time, this was not possible. And had it not been for Andrew, I mean, this place would never be here now. I wouldn't be doing this work, possibly.
Why not?
Well, it's only, basically only through having Andrew and the love and affection that we got from him. But when he was 4, I'd already done quite a few years sort of study into the subject. I tried to find him somewhere in the country where he could get what I called an education. And this was just not available. And so being rather pig-headed, I said, well, if there isn't some, let's make some. And so from that day on, I started my own research and planning it into this project.
What effect did it have on the family when Andrew died?
Very large effects. My wife, of course, who adored him, she was unfortunately sent to hospital for a number of years. The other children, of course, missed him tremendously. I found that my daughter, Pippa, the second daughter, had written a letter. It was a very moving document, but it did sum up our feelings completely.
He fell asleep with his little pulse fluttering in his body, and 10 minutes later, 20 to 7, he turned over and smiled at Daddy, and his spirit left him. The nurses and Daddy tried for half an hour to recover him, but he obviously didn't want to come. We always said we didn't want him to grow up, and if he had lived, he would have been in a wheelchair in hospital for the rest of his dear life. We went to see him, or rather, to see his body, because his spirit was with God. He was so clean, with his arms crossed on his chest, hugging his teddy bear which he died with. I had never seen him so soft, sweet, peaceful, and lovely in all my life.
Oh, yes.
Hello, Austin.
Hello.
How many have you done now?
First one.
First one? That's not bad, is it?
Very good. What other things have you got on, Austin? You've still got to do.
Swings and tables and chairs. Seesaw. Swings.
This is the main hall, as you can see. I think the nicest room in the house. One can imagine in the old days, big banquets with the minstrels gathering. Of course, the whole house is a lot of woodwork, and much of this came from the original Houses of Parliament.
Would it be possible to run this kind of institution in a modern house?
It would be possible to run it, but you wouldn't get the character and the success in a modern house. Environment is so very important. These children love all the beautiful things in life. They like space, they love colour, scenery and freedom. And in a modern house you couldn't provide this character. And the correct environment can increase their learning ability by as much as 18%, in fact.
Can you give me an illustration of the way any of your children have improved dramatically since coming here?
Yes, I have one little girl who was 4 last week, in fact. She joined us 4 months ago. All her food was liquidized. She couldn't walk. She couldn't say anything. She was very much sort of introvert. But now she's developed. She does nursery rhymes. She takes part in all the play activities with the other children. Feeds herself. She's almost potty trained.
Knocking at the door. Help me! Help me! Help! He said. Jacqueline? All the guns will shoot me dead. Bang, 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 bang. Little rabbit. Oh dear.
The basic theory is that I've believed for many years that these children are human beings, that they should be given the same opportunities and advantages as ordinary children have. And this is what we're trying to give them here. We get them here at a young age. We give them a complete education with qualified teachers, as long as they learn. They are then transferred to our vocational training department, where that learning is adapted to some form of trade. And when they've learned that trade, then we keep them fully employed in that, right through to the day they die.
But all you had to offer people was a theory. You had no practical proof of what you could do. How did you set about raising money on that basis?
We did the conventional sort of charity fundraising. I used to do all sorts of other things. I used to go to universities, technical colleges. I used to stand up on the table when they were having their lunch, interesting. And if they want to hear me, come to another room. And then I'd say, well, what about putting on a charity walk? What about having a dance? And in one university, London University, I even said, well, what about the transatlantic air race, which in fact came off and we won the Butlin Trophy. I used to always keep a pile of leaflets in my car, and if ever I stopped at traffic lights, pedestrian crossing next to a big car, they got a leaflet. If I was going through the country and I saw a big house, I thought, well, you can't live there and not be without some worldly goods. So I used to find out from the locals who lived there, phone these people up and say, well, look, I'm not very often here, but I am tonight. Can you spare me a few moments? And I think they were so flabbergasted that the vast majority said yes. So I went up and spoke to them, and it worked. And in fact, we got an awful lot of help from young people. The finest example, I think, was from Hinckley. In the early hours of one morning, there was a terrific roar coming up the drive, and it appeared through the gate about 30 motorcycles with leather-cladded fellows on it. So I went out to investigate, and they said, well, we've come to work. They brought all their camping gear, their food, their cooking utensils, everything. And they got up on Saturday morning and they worked. And they got up on Sunday morning and they worked right through. And when they left on Sunday night to go home, their hands were literally blistered. But the work they'd done was absolutely fantastic. A lot of people thought that they couldn't be educated, they couldn't benefit from an education, that they can't take part in activities without being supervised, that they shouldn't be allowed to climb over haystacks and things of this sort. And, you know, that we were being far too adventurous. In fact, a lot of people who were against us initially now have turned completely the other way.
I think you always see some changes when you move children in anywhere. They're a bit difficult at first, and then there's a settling in period. But I think for a lot of them, this basic settling in period is over, and we're beginning to see progress. And I think perhaps this is true for some of the very retarded children who we really didn't think were going to make a great deal of progress.
So Kenneth Newton Wright's theories are being borne out, are they?
Yes, I think they are.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Richard. Happy birthday to you. Hip hip. Hip hip. Hip hip. Hip hip.
complete village. This will take a large number of years. We're only just started. We've, I think, just proved our point. Now we've got to create more vacancies. The way we're going to do it is by building a village of houses. These almost certainly will be Norwegian log houses. We always have to bear in mind economy, of course. And the children will live, 8 children in one house with 3 qualified house mothers. Now this will be home, and these will be their pseudo brothers and sisters. And they will leave home in the morning, go to school or work according to age. At lunchtime they will go home for lunch, where the house mothers cook food just for that age. So that again, table manners, etiquette and so on can be observed. And in the afternoon, back to work, school, play, whatever's on the programme. Eventually we will have our own shops, we will have our own filling station, our own tea room, and we're running our own farm. Eventually we intend to provide as much as we can, become completely self-sufficient, with the exception of main services. We can grow all our own food, our own meat. We hope to grow our own wheat. The boys will mill it into flour, and the older girls will make our own bread and cakes and so on. It's a long project, and there's a lot of hard work ahead. We're not trying to think there isn't. There is a lot of work. And all the money for this has to be raised privately, of course, for capital development. And there's vast sums involved. Our view is that we don't care what standard these children reach. Our object here is to educate them to the maximum of their ability, adapt this ability to a trade, so that when they're adults, they're working in a job that they enjoy doing and which uses their abilities to the full.
That's right. James? Martin?
Exit.
Good. Richard, red 4.
Stop.
Anthony, green 4.
Go.
That's it. Martin?
No exit.
And what does that mean?
Can't go in.
You can't go through that door?
Can't go through that door.
That's right, lad. Which is this one? John? John? What's this word, son?
And we maintain that whether you're handicapped or not, if you're working to the maximum of your ability, in a job that you enjoy doing, you're leading a fulfilled life. And whether you're sweeping leaves or working a complicated machine doesn't really come into it.